Alright, today we're going to talk a little bit about the 4 Ds of buy-sell agreements. Buy-sell agreements come in the generic term buy-sell agreements, but they're found in an S corporation inside the shareholders agreement and in the LLC inside of the operating agreement. And there are 4 Ds that generically can be reminders of you on why you might set up the buy-sell agreement, and more importantly, what is important to address inside of that buy-sell agreement. So let's walk through the 4 Ds. The first D that you want to prepare for is death. Yes, death of a shareholder. What are we going to do if there's a death of a shareholder? A lot of people have said to me in the past, Matt, if there's only one shareholder, why do I need a buy-sell agreement? Well, let's think about that. If I own my own business and I pass away, is my wife going to jump in and take over my business? Probably not. Most likely, someone from one of my employees is going to step up and take the business, or a multitude of employees, or someone from the outside. So I need a buy-sell agreement if I'm a sole shareholder to protect my family and make sure that the value of my business, if my business today is worth $5 million, it's going to be worth $3 million after I die, maybe less. But if I want to protect that full $5 million for my family, I need to protect against death. I use life insurance for it. I write in the provisions on how the business is going to be transferred either to one or more employees, and then my family gets the proceeds from that. So even as a sole shareholder, very, very important. As a partner, it's even more important, because if I'm partners and I'm sitting there with Susie, my partner, I don't want to be partners with Susie's Susie's husband after she passes away. So we have to have a clear transfer vehicle that allows us to change ownership hands if something happens to me or Susie. So whether you have multiple partners, one partner, or no partners, death is clearly one of the 4 Ds. The second D that you have to take into consideration is disability. And when I say disability, I'm mostly talking about mental incapacity. This isn't really a physical disability unless your job requires physical activity. This is a mental disability. What happens if I can no longer do my job? How long will my company and my partner continue to pay my salary if I can no longer do my job at my company? How long should I continue to stay in the position if I mentally am incapable of doing my job? These are things we have to talk about. You can use insurance to fund these things in certain select cases, but most of the time there is a business decision to be made around this, and it's a conversation that's so important to have because it is one of the 4 Ds, and it is something, unfortunately, that happens quite often. The third D, death, disability, divorce. Unfortunately, divorce happens in roughly 50% of all marriages in this country. What that means is that if you are married at this moment and you have a partner who is also married at this moment, one of the two of you is more likely than not going to get divorced, according to the statistics. If that's the case, what do you do with the shares on divorce? Are you now a partner with your partner's divorcing spouse? Most of the times the answer wants to be no. You want to make sure that you've got provisions in place for the buyout of those shares, or the transfer of those shares, or the retention of those shares by your partner. And those are incredibly important provisions to have inside of any buy-sell agreement. The last one is a very broad-based topic, dissolution. Dissolution governs, for example, what do we do if we don't agree anymore and we just want to walk away? That's the simple answer. Also, what happens if we get approached by a buyer and they want to buy my shares, but not your shares? What happens if they want to buy part of the company and not all the company? Who has the rights to say yes, no, put it to the other person to say, well, I can either sell to you or I can sell to the person over here? How about a first right of refusal? Well, I'll buy that deal if you get a deal from somebody else, and I have the right first to say yes or no before you sell your interest. These are all things that have to be decided upon, not necessarily outcomes. But the 4 Ds, death, disability, divorce, and dissolution, are at least the bare minimum of what you want to consider inside of a buy-sell agreement.